Hello everybody, welcome back to some more Dragalia content. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the new Mana Spiral adventures for the month of March. Now, I want to say that these Mana Spiral adventures are probably not going to be the last ones this month. They did say that the 3-star Shadow units should be coming at the end of the month, so we can expect them to be coming. Of course, this one features Hawk, Lin Yu, and Fang. So these three I'm discussing, as well as in relation to the DPS sim, so I'm not going to talk about them super in depth, but I do want to kind of give my overall thoughts on them before I make, an analysis. Yes, it's an analysis, not a review. You know who you are. Anyway, so let's discuss, first of all, Hawk. So Hawk is going to be the one that was already confirmed a while ago. So Hawk is an attacking unit, obviously. His skill 1, Savage Hawk. So it's been upgraded, obviously, and I'm going to talk about what it's been upgraded to be. Now, I have the original skill 1 here off of Hawk. So let's see. His upgraded one deals wind damage enemies in a line. Poisoned or stunned foes take extra damage. This damage increase will stack. Now, what it was before was it did one hit of wind damage, and then stunned foes take like an extra 1,000%. However, this time it's going to be stunned or poisoned foes, and it can stack, which is actually very, very strong, especially if you count his skill 2 into it. But I'll talk about that in a second. So basically, he's going to deal probably over 2,000% mods if you get both of them on top of each other. I'm assuming the stun increase, the stun damage increase will be much greater than the poison, since stun is a lot harder to inflict. You can actually really only inflict it like one time in HMC anyway. So I'm assuming it's going to be, actually I think you do 2 times, but it's going to be probably greater than the poison one, since again, poison you can inflict pretty much throughout the entire battle, and it pretty much has a really, really solid uptime compared to things like, stun and paralysis or sleep, etc. So so I do expect it to be a very strong skill 1, especially since that's going to be where most of his damage comes from. So if I had to guess, I would assume like poison foes take around 1,500 to 1,800%, because his skill right now deals 1,800%. So I'm assuming, because poison is again much easier to inflict, it's going to deal around there. And then with stun, or is it stun? Yeah, it's stun, not paralysis, right? Yeah, it's stun. So with stun, it's probably going to shoot up to like 2,500%, something like that, something insane. So, and plus you can stack it on top of each other, which means you have both, maybe like 3,000%, an insane modifier if you get both, because again, getting stunned, it doesn't really happen very often. So that's what I expect off that skill 1. Skill 2, activate shocking arrows. For the next 2 force strikes, the user will shoot special arrows that deal extra damage and inflict stun and poison. Again, this inflicts stun and poison from just inflicting stun, which is what it did before. The second time this skill is used, it will instead deal wind damage to enemies in a line, dealing extra damage to poison foes. This skill will then alternate between these 2 effects every use. So it doesn't say that the force strike is, oh, it does. It says extra damage. Okay, so it's still extra damage, which is nice. So it's kind of like Nefaria. Look at Nefaria's skill 2. It's kind of going to be like this, except this is for the next 2 force strikes rather than just the next 1 force strike. So that is pretty cool. I don't know if you'll gain extra SP off of this extra damage. Maybe you will if you can. You could do what Nefaria does, which is skill 1, or you shoot up your force strike skill 2, then you skill 1 right away, and then you get your skill 1 back up again already. And since you can do it again, maybe you force strike again, then skill 1, and then you skill 1 again. You'll be able to do your skill 1 3 times within a matter of like 5 seconds, which would be insane if you do gain enough SP to charge up that skill 1 again, which again, not sure if you can. This skill 2 is also pretty low SP cost at 5,300, whereas his skill 1 is again also a pretty low SP cost, 2,700. So if you can do that, that would be an amazing combo like what Nefaria can do. Again, it's a very fun combo to do. It's a very strong combo. Again, this inflicts stun and poison, which again, poison will have a great uptime, but stun not really. Only problem I can see with this is you're going to use your stun very early on in the battle, whereas you would want to keep it for break, but again, it's going to be really hard to do that since it's off of the skill 2 that you do want to alternate a bunch of times, because the next time you use it, you're going to be doing wind damage, which you might be saying, ew, I want to have my poison up all the time, but honestly, you don't want to use up your poison too much. Now again, Hawk as the sole poison dealer on the team will not be amazing keeping uptime, but if you have another unit that can inflict poison, then you can have a lot of uptime up on this poison, of course, because again, 5,000 SP to inflict poison, and it alternates, which means it's going to basically like 10,000 SP to keep poison up. It's not very good for uptime, but again, it does allow for nice burst damage to appear. So that's a skill 2. I do think it's solid, but again, it could have been better. I do feel like it could have been better, unless this modifier off of the wind damage is really, really high to make up for that. I do feel like it could have been better. So that's a skill 2. Kill ability didn't change. Ability, poison and stun edge plus 50% is obviously increased from his full HP equals stun plus 60%. this increases both by 50, which actually it went down. Did it actually go down? It went down by 10%, but you didn't get that. You gained the poison, and it's no longer full HP. So that's actually surprising how it went down. I never thought they would actually lower it, but they did lower it, so that's interesting. Next up, Potent Freeze Res. This is actually bad for HMC, but you don't really see it too much because, again, you don't need Bog Res to beat the fight. It is recommended because, again, there are Whirlpools and Master. I keep talking about Master because Master is really the only content right now that matters for these wind units, at least. So for Master, there is that one Whirlpool phase, but if you can get by that being bogged, then I do think Hawk can definitely be usable because, again, you don't need Bog Res at all in the fight, besides probably to dodge that Whirlpool. Next up, Poison and Stun Punisher is, again, very strong. We've seen this often in Nefari, how strong it really is. So this is very good. Of course, it's not Stun for Nefari, it's blinded, but this is a very, very good ability for him to have, and it's definitely going to increase his DPS a ton. Again, you don't have Stun too much, so this isn't going to be broken. It's really just this Poison one that you're going to see a lot of effect into. Now then, let's see, how much do I think Hawk is going to get boosted? Well, if we go right now to Hawk, Hawk is like way down here. He's below Eleonora, which is very sad. But again, Eleonora does poison, so that's probably why. But he is below Eleonora. Very sad indeed. But I do think he's going to boost up, just like Nefari did. Nefari was so bad, but now she's literally one of the best Shadow DPS in the game. So I do think he's going to boost up, probably be up here to Joaquin, maybe better than Joaquin since he has that stun edge as well. Not really stun edge, but like the stun kit, the stun part of his kit. So I do think he could be above Joaquin, which would be insane if he is, but he has that potential. But again, do I recommend you should invest into Hawk? Honestly, wait to see how good he is on the DPS sim, and wait to see if he even becomes meta. Because if he doesn't become meta, there's no point of him even being used. Plus the champion assessments that it takes to use them, that's a problem. But again, you might want to just save up for the next Agito to be released. See if you even need to invest into a win unit. And see if, Hawk is even good for that. So that's my thoughts on Hawk. Next up, Lin Yu. I was surprised Lin Yu is going to be the new 5-star that we're getting Mana Spiral for. Now, they did say there's going to be another adventure, but they didn't reveal it until right now. And it's finally confirmed to be Lin Yu. So let's go over Lin Yu's kit. Lin Yu is, of course, an axe unit. I do think Hawk will be the best wind bow in the game after he gets his Mana Spiral, but let's talk about Lin Yu. Lin Yu, there isn't really too much competition between wind axes. Lin Yu is the best wind axe right now, I believe. Oh, actually, okay, no. Valentine's Melody is the best, but you have to remember Valentine's Melody has a different co-ability, so you could actually use them both on the same team, and they might actually be really, really good together because, again, she's more of a support than an actual DPS unit. So let's talk about Lin Yu now. Lin Yu, Typhoon Fist, deals wind damage enemies directly ahead, and inflicts sleep. The user's next 3 4 strikes are powered up and creates cyclones. So this is powered up from just dealing damage and inflicting sleep. So this is, again, it's obviously much better. What the mod was on this before was, let's see, it actually only shows the normal effect. Okay, interesting. Okay, so it literally just did wind damage enemies directly ahead, and it was powered up when Heaven's Breath is active, which is, of course, we'll talk about Heaven's Breath in a second. So it deals basically 7 hits of 186% damage. I'm expecting this to go up to at least 200%, which is going to be very strong. That's like a 1400% SP skill 1. And your next 4 strikes are powered up. Now, it depends. Is it even going to be worth using these 4 strikes? I don't know, because if you look at the rest of her kit, she needs to get her combo up, and using 4 strikes just kind of waste time to not get your combo up. So I don't know if you would even use these 4 strikes unless they have really, they are powered up. Depends how much powered up they are. And I don't know what this Cyclones means. Is it going to be like the skill where it actually deals like a bunch of damage? If it is like an extra 3 like skills, that would be insane. Again, because you get the skill 1 off very quickly since it's only 2900 SP. And Heaven's Breath means that your attack rate is increased by 20% this time. And before it was actually, let's see. Before it was actually, 20%. Okay, it was still 20%, but it is increased to 15 seconds from 10 seconds, which is, again, an extra 5 seconds doesn't sound like much, but when it comes to attack rate for an extra 5 seconds, that actually equates to a lot of extra SP getting gained. Plus, again, you're restoring your HP, and Typhoon Fist is powered up for an extra 5 seconds, which means you're pretty much guaranteed to get Typhoon's Fist off twice over the course of those 15 seconds, which is, again, very strong. Basically, what you do is you skill 2, you skill 1 right away, then you do a bunch of hits, you skill 1 again, and then you can actually maybe do it another time, depending on how strong, maybe this 4-strike SP gain just lets you skill right again. That would be insane. But again, I do think this boost is nice. An extra 5 seconds of an attack rate is very strong. Next, let's talk about co-ability. Didn't actually change, actually. But Kung Fu Mastery is a very big part of her kit. This remains the exact same. Your HP increases by, or your crit rate increases by 10% when your HP is 7% or above. But now, when your combo is 25 or higher, your crit rate will increase by a further 20%. And when your combo is 50 or higher, it's going to increase by another 20%. So you basically get 50% combo rate with no co abilities and not even factoring in the normal crit rate to get your crits. So with Kung Fu Masters, obviously going to go up even more. With potential, you'd probably run the Panda still rather than a crit rate dragon, though, if it does come out. So crit damage dragon, which is long, you'd probably just want to run him on her. And this is honestly insane. The only problem I see is that axes have a long time to get their combo up. That's really the only problem. But again, not even a huge problem. Honestly, it's not a huge problem. It's because Lin Yu and HMC Master, you don't even need to move around much. You won't get even knockback since you are an axe. They don't even take knockback. So this is a very strong or ability, I should say. But again, it just takes a long time for axes to get their combo up. And there are a couple of attacks where you need to move out of the way as the DPS unit. You know, the waterfalls, the whirlpools, and potentially those the spheres even. So there's a couple things you do need to dodge, but I do think this is a strong ability. I just don't know how much this will increase your DPS since she already crits a lot. I do want to say she already is going to crit a lot. I just don't know how much this will increase your DPS. Again, if you can keep a high combo uptime with your axe, I could see that being very strong. Next up, Potent Bogrez is again great for HMC. Skill haste and combo time is good. Again, this is still the skill haste ability, but now it just adds this extra combo time on it, which is again very strong. The extra 2 seconds means that you could potentially roll away, dodge a hit, wait a second, and then go back and attack, and your combo will still keep the exact same counter, which is, again, it's good if you need to dodge some attacks from HMC. So that's my thoughts on Lin Yu. Again, I do think she's going to take a big increase. I feel like she might be a little bit tricky to use because of this Force Strike thing and, of course, trying to keep your combo up. Again, it might take a lot of, skill, quote-unquote skill to use her. But again, right now, her DPS is pretty low. So this boost should increase her up potentially higher than Kirsty and Victor. I do feel like she would be higher than them because, again, 70 mana spirals. She should be, with the increase on her skill 1 alone, she might be better than them. So, yeah, we'll have to see how she will end up in the future. But again, I think Hawk definitely has more potential than her because Hawk will get a huge increase from those Punisher abilities as well. So that's my thoughts on Lin Yu. Next up, Su Feng. I'm not really going to talk about Su Feng too much since I'm not super specialized when it comes to daggers, but I do just want to warn you that I do think Wedding Aoi will get a mana spiral as well soon. So if you do want to invest into a dagger for wind, I might want to wait for Wedding Aoi to get a mana spiral. It's not confirmed or anything, it's just kind of my speculation. But let's talk about his first skill, Gale Slice. What it does now is it deals wind damage to enemies directly ahead. Poison foes take extra damage. So basically, instead of just dealing extra damage, now poison foes take extra damage. And I'm assuming it's obviously going to be increased even more. We'll have to see how much it's increased. Again, at the moment, it's a pretty weak skill without this Crackling Pyro Blossom active. But with Crackling Pyro Blossom active, increase the strength by 30% for 15 seconds. And of course, I'll talk about the next part in a second, but 30% for 15 seconds increased from 25% for 10 seconds. So extra 5% for an extra 5 seconds. Again, the extra 5 seconds is honestly the most important part of this skill. Getting extra time to have, more stronger skills is probably the best thing for him, especially if you have Vayu on him, which is probably going to be his best dragon. That's going to be insane. Again, this while the skill is active, Gale Slice may inflict stun. So this skill will inflict stun. Again, I don't know how useful that's going to be for HMC since you kind of want to save stun for break or to dodge a whirlpool. Also, the user's next Force Strike will inflict poison. That's probably the most important part. So inflicting poison is very, very solid, mainly because of his skill 1, now dealing extra damage to poison foes. Again, I'm assuming this is going to have like 2,000% mods against poison foes, which is, again, very, very solid. So you could just be using him instead of like a Wedding Ellie and the normal team comp. I'll talk about the team comp in a second, but yeah, I think this is very good. Very solid buff. The extra 5 seconds and the poison damage is very good. Next up, crit rate is the exact same. Therian's Bane, honestly, isn't really used at all, and I think it didn't even change at all. I think it's the exact same as it was, unless it was increased by 10%, but I don't know. But again, you don't really use this at all, so that's not important. Potent Bogrez is actually good on him because now he has 100% Bogrez where he didn't have that before. So now you can actually see him in HMC because you really didn't see him in HMC before. Again, you don't need Bogrez, but it's just like there was no reason to use him if you didn't have Bogrez, if that makes sense. Next up, he also got an extra, I believe, 15% skill damage, which is again very solid. If that is the case, I believe that was an extra 15% skill damage. So that is insane. He has a lot of potential to be one of the strongest wind DPS actually with this huge buff. But again, Wedding Owie might be getting it soon. She might be better. She might not be better though. So you might want to just invest into Fang. But he has a ton of potential to be one of the strongest units in the game. Again, the skill damage ability is very nice. However, it doesn't really stack with Vayu too well. But again, it's a very strong ability. Sorry, that is there. So those are my thoughts on the units. Do I think any of them will become meta? Honestly, yes. I do think for the time being, each of these could be meta. Like, you could just get rid of the current HMC meta, and you could just run like a Hawk, a Fang, and like a Wedding Ellie, or maybe instead of Wedding Ellie, like a Valentine's Melody. Probably not Valentine's Melody because that's a lot of poison, but like you probably could be running those units and then like a Noelle for the buff time. I think Noelle is honestly the only thing that won't change. Though you could be running like a Zanefried or something if you run a Lin Yu. You know, there's a lot of potential for the HMC meta to shift, and I'm honestly looking forward to see what it shifts to. But again, I do want to mention, just hold off on mana spawning any of these units unless you need to be HMC master like ASAP or Mercurial Golem 55 ASAP. Because again, there's going to be more mana spawner units in the future, and we don't even have Water Agito yet. So you really can't use these units in anything. Because again, HMC Master is already beatable. Plus, you got to think about your Champions Testaments. Think about the future for your Champions Testaments, because honestly, they're going to take a lot. Except Fang, he's going to be a little bit cheaper than the other two. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the units. Again, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you hype? Are you going to be mana spawning any of these units ASAP? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. Until next time, have a nice shit.